Well, David is in a trial. Saul, unbeknownst to David, and David didn't do anything to deserve it, but Saul decided to make David his enemy and set out to kill him. And, it looked like it was going to last a few days, but now days have turned into weeks. And David is going to be dying 1,000 deaths when it turns into months. But you know how long this is going to go on? For over 20 years. Guys, trials go a long time. That's why they're called trials, because they try you. And some trials are for a lifetime. And sometimes we were like, okay, God, it's been weeks, it's been months, I got it, I've learned the lesson. In the trial, let's move on. And for whatever reason, it seems aimless to us, but God has a plan. And you just simply stop and ask yourself this. When David got to the throne, he became a king amongst kings. Israel, out of all the mighty men of history, they picked one man out, David. They have one symbol for the nation of Israel, the Star of David. Jesus said, one day I shall sit upon the throne of David. Jesus, our Lord, said this forever and ever. So you simply ask yourself, when you look at David upon the throne, if David didn't go through those 22 and a half years of trials, would he have been the guy that all of us need to see? Would if he have been the king that Israel needed? Would he have been the example that we would still be talking about today if he didn't go through those years of trial? No. And so, in this chapter, David doesn't do well. Okay? David sins. And so up to this point, he's really been handling the pressure pretty good. But in this chapter, he just sort of collapses. The pressure gets to him. And it gets pretty ugly. And we're going to see David have some great chapters. And we're going to see David have some horrible chapters. And the thing that we're going to see is exactly what we see in our life. We have good chapters, we have bad chapters, right? But God is faithful. And no matter how bad the chapter was, God was still David's God. And the gifts and the callings that God had upon David's life, he never rescinded. And he never considered it. This worked deep in David. Because Saul was being evil towards him and doing a lot of wicked things, as we're going to see today. And not once, but twice, Saul supernaturally was in the presence of David. He came into a cave out of the 1,000 caves of En-gedi. He chose the one that David and his 400 men were hiding in. And he came in by himself to go to the bathroom. And these guys are going, this is God. Kill him. And David wrestled. And then later on, David came down into the camp of Saul, and God had put all the thousands of men, including Saul, into a deep supernatural sleep. And his right-hand man, Abishai, said, just let me take the spear, stab him through. This is God taking you out of your trials, delivering you from your enemies, justifying you. You can go straight to the throne. And David, it was deep in him. The gifts and the calling of God is irrevocable. Doesn't matter what Saul has done, he is king, and I will not touch the Lord's anointed. God doesn't want Saul as king anymore. God raises up, the psalm says, and God brings down. God's going to have to do it, not me. And so both of those situations that looked like God was delivering David from his enemies, Saul, was actually a deep test. And David's the only one that passed it. But it was deep. And with David, the same thing. He would go through some very dark, sinful, difficult times. But God's calling on his life, his anointing on his life, never stopped. And that's an important issue that we're going to discover. Well, in 1 Samuel 21, verse 1, now David came to Nob. There was various places that the tabernacle parked. Remember, they came out of Egypt. They built the tabernacle, and it was movable. And at this particular place, the tabernacle, where the Holy of Holies, where the temple, the tabernacle where God's presence was, the Holy of Holies, and the menorah, and all of these things were there. It was at a place called Nob. And Ahimelech was the high priest at that time, and Ahimelech was afraid when he met David and said, "Why are you alone and no one with you?" You know, when you really look at this, it digs deep. Because David was alone, and there was nobody with him. His wife, Michal, helped David escape, but then she told everybody, "David tried to kill me, that's why I had to do that." His best friend, Jonathan, who loved each other with the deepest love that one can love one, was geographically separated from David. David couldn't be with his own family. He had to put them in hiding in the country of Moab. David couldn't be around anybody, and nobody could be around David. And David was alone. And there is one answer to this: Saul. Saul has done me wrong. And he is bringing this pain, this loneliness, this difficulty. I am separated from my wife, my best friend, my family, my country. And just understand, guys, that we're all going to be in that place. We're all going to be in that place. For whatever reason, Satan is out to steal, kill, and destroy. He puppets people at times. He pulls strings just to be evil. What purpose in this? No purpose. It's just Satan being Satan, and there are evil men that are just evil. And it causes your life to be incredibly lonely, incredibly painful. You know, the reason I'm really bringing this up is I actually had a couple of people this week who were just absolutely in torment because of the Christmas holidays coming up. Because their families, like a lot of people's families, are fractured. And as they're heading into the holidays, it just causes that hurt to be amplified times a million. And the only thing they want about the holidays is just to be over. Because it just creates in them this pain of what the family should be coming together, but it's not. I can sort of take it in bits and pieces, you know. Part of my family was invited that wedding, but other parts weren't. And they had a birthday party, I wasn't invited. And they're mad and they're upset and they're hurt. And it's just this division. But all of a sudden, at the holiday times, it's just there should be this oneness, this closeness. They're kind to everybody else in the world, but their own brother or sister or mother or child and it just digs deep. And it hurts profoundly. And there's just that point where the aloneness, it becomes so painful that the only comfort is the thought of death itself. This is the time of year that hospitals fill up. People literally feel like they're dying. And it's because of that emotional pain. And it does break down their body and turn into something physical, a flu or a heart condition, or it does turn into a physical thing. I'm not questioning that. But it started with this hurt. You know, as I wrestle with this, and I've been there, guys. I have been there, and I really hate that people are afraid to talk about their weakness because it makes them ashamed, makes them vulnerable. But I've been there. I've been there where I just literally am curled up in the fetus position and just overwhelmed. Can't even get out of bed. Just a sense of dread, of fear, of torment in my own mind and from the devil and from man. And, you know, you wonder when you're there, it's like, what did I do? What did I say? Man, I know I'm a screw up, but is this what I'm deserving of? And you know what? It just so happens in this particular case with David, there was nothing other than just evil. There's evil. There's evil in the world. There's a real God who loves you, and there is a real devil that hates your guts. There is a real God that desires to forgive your sin and take you to heaven, and there is a real devil that wants to destroy you and drag you to the pit with him. And we are in the midst of a world where that tug of war and that battle is going on. And in the midst of it, we are sometimes physically, sometimes relationally, but there is just a deep emotional torture that can go on in the soul of a person. Jeremiah talks about this, talking about a man rejected. His entire country rejected him because he prophesied what God gave him to say. And they hated him. They locked him up. Not one person ever believed him or received him. But in Lamentations 3, verse 22 to 33, he just realizes and comes to some conclusions on some things. Through the Lord's mercies we're not consumed because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should hope and wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. Now listen to verse 27, 28, and 29. It is good for a man to bear the yoke in his youth. Let him sit alone, keep silent, because God has laid it on him. Let him put his mouth in the dust. There may yet be hope. Then he prophesies in verse 30 of Jesus. So this was very much where Jesus was feeling deeply alone right before the cross. Let him give his cheek to the one who strikes him and be full of reproach. And then verse 31. For the Lord will not cast off forever. Though he causes grief, yet he will show compassion according to the multitude of his mercies. For he does not afflict willingly, without reason, nor grieve the children of men. You're going to discover as we study through the Bible, for God to use a man greatly, God must first break that man greatly. God can only use broken vessels that have been crushed and humbled under his mighty hand. And God isn't necessarily doing it, but he is allowing it. And it's not haphazardly. He's taking a big giant stone and he's carefully shaping it into an expensive diamond. But it's starting out like just a big chunk of black coal. And he's chipping away at it. And it hurts. And it's sharp. And giant chunks are coming off. And when you're in that place, you're just going, I can't tolerate this. I can't live like this. I can't bear it like this. And the pain becomes so great. The only thing you're thinking is, I just want to end it and just figure out what the consequences are after death. Because I can't make it another day. And in that time, you need to just wait, as it says in verse 26, wait quietly for what? The salvation of God. God in seasons and at times hedges us up on each side, all the way around, beneath, and we can't do anything but look up. David says in that time, vain is the help of man. Man, God doesn't allow them to have the words of comfort or strength or wisdom or help. You are alone and there is nobody with you. And in that place of aloneness is great piercing and difficulty. And there has to come that place that you say, the Lord is my portion. It's enough. There's a story in Genesis 14 with Abraham. He hears about his nephew Lot down in Sodom and Gomorrah has been taken captive by a group of wicked kings. And they've been rampaging and winning, taking all these kingdoms, and virtually all the kingdoms of that time had been conquered. And when Abraham hears his nephew's been taken, he grabs 300 men. They go and fight against these kingdoms and win. And now Abraham is going back to his family, literally carrying the wealth of the known world at that time. It probably would have taken hundreds, maybe thousands of men to carry all the gold and the silver and special perfumes and different types of fabric and so forth. And God meets Abraham in Genesis 14 as Melchizedek. We discover it's Jesus. He was a man with no beginning of days or ending of days. He was the king of Salem and the priest to God Most High. And he gives him bread and he gives him wine, and they talk and they fellowship. The next day, the king of Sodom meets Abraham. And he said, hey, the law is you keep everything, just give us our families back. And Abraham, just this deep revulsion happens in him. And he says to the king of Sodom, I don't want anything from you. I would not take a piece of broken leather that fell off your sandal. I wouldn't even take that. I don't want any of that. And in chapter 15, God meets him, and Abraham comes to this place, and he says, the Lord is my shield and my portion. That's it. I can be arrested, thrown into a jail cell in isolation. That's a good way to go crazy. But there is that place where God's bringing us that the Lord is my portion. Godliness with contentment is great gain. To be the wealthiest man in the world is a man who needs nothing more. And God was bringing David, God's bringing us to that place that men fail us, men hurt us. The devil uses men to speak evil of us and to try to rip and tear. In Psalm 73, it's a fantastic psalm, but it was basically the psalmist stumbling, just saying, I'm not going to follow God anymore because living a righteous life does not pay. I can tell you, I'm looking at the wicked people, and they're doing much better off than the people that are trying to do things honestly and fairly and righteously. And when he was comparing just his observations, he got stumbled. And in Psalm 73, verse 16 and 17, he says, when I thought how to understand this, it was just too painful for me. I just couldn't bear it. I'd wished for death. It was just hurt so bad, so deep. It ripped and tore and pierced in the scar of my soul. Until I went into the sanctuary of God. Then I understood their end. That I came in that pain and that sorrow and that aloneness, feeling wronged, And in that place, I just came into the sanctuary of God. And this is, we are individually the sanctuary of God, but God's people getting together in his name. This becomes God's house. This is the sanctuary of God. God's given the gift of worship, the gift of preaching the word, to speak, to heal us, and to get our eyes focused on God. And we come into this sanctuary of God. And then I understood. And he goes on in verse 25 to say this: whom have I in heaven but you? And there is none upon this earth that I desire besides you. My flesh, my heart fell. Maybe that's where you're at right now. You just, I can't be wounded any more than I am. I can't be hurt any deeper than I do. I can't be more wronged anymore. There's nothing left. A hand grenade went in there and just blew my heart up to smithereens. Becoming Scrooge. You're just hurting so deeply. And when I was in that place, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. He just came to the place to say, God, it's you. My mother and father have forsaken me, yet, Lord, you haven't forsaken me. Vain is the help of man. Worthless is the pieces of metal and silver and diamonds and fabrics. And what are you going to do with that? Naked you came in this world, naked you came out. What am I doing here? I'm letting man just cause me to go deeper and deeper into this darkness with bitterness and anger and hurt, and I'm just sinking, and I can't keep doing this because the only thing that comforts me is the thoughts of death, and I can't. It's not a way to live. That's not what it's supposed to go on. What am I going to do? And he finally just comes back to that place once again. It's you, God. You are the reason that my flesh and my heart just need to stop failing, because it's in you, God, are my strength. You are my portion. It's you, Lord, that I'm putting all my hope, all my fellowship, all my intimacy, all my desires into that place. Well, may God heal you. And let me just pray right now. Lord, if there's some this morning, Lord, you've brought this rhema word, Lord. I just know right now that people are feeling some joyful. They're in a season of their life. They have no idea what I'm talking about, and thank you for that. But there are other people that are just suffering greatly, and the holidays seem to just make it worse. Lord, don't let that be the way for them. You be the reason for the season. Jesus, just you fill their heart right now with your healing power and bring about a mighty work in their soul. And let them rejoice in you, and let you be their portion in this season. In Jesus' precious name. Well, back in 1 Samuel chapter 21, verse 2. So David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has ordered me on some business and said to me, 'Do not let anyone know anything about the business on which I send you, or what I have commissioned or have commanded you. And I have directed my young men to such and such a place.'" So David just lies. Don't try to soften it. Don't try to spin it. Don't try to give some kind of explanation for it. The Bible doesn't try. Don't you try. Just simply say, David is just lying his silly head off here. He came to Ahimelech. He'd just been with Samuel, remember? And he told Samuel, "Hey, here's the truth. Saul's trying to kill me. I don't know why, blah, 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 blah." And they start praying, and Saul starts sending men to kill David, and God's Spirit falls on him. And now David goes back to Jonathan, and Jonathan says, "Yep, it's true. There's no way. You got to flee." Where does David go? A place he's familiar with. David said, "If I could come back as any creature on earth, I want to be a sparrow who builds a nest in the tabernacle. and can just stay there in the presence of God. David knew what it was like to go and find refuge, find healing in that tabernacle area in the presence of God. And he's going there, this place. He has nowhere to go. Nobody's with him. And Ahimelech is like, David, you're a general. You've always got a group of men with you, a few hundred captains and lieutenants, and you usually got swords and spears, and I don't know what's going on here. Something is just not setting right. Oh, okay, yeah. And there's David. Maybe he just didn't even have a jacket. He just jumped on a horse. No food, no sword, no nothing. It's just a guy riding up on his horse and no saddle, just jumping off and going, hey, yeah. It's like, whoa, something's not right. And he just caught off guard and just says, oh, well, I'm on this special mission. Don't tell anybody. I can't tell you anything more about it. And, my men, they're over the hill there. And everything's normal. Just right now, this is, secret mission for the king. So now, here's what I need you to do. Give me whatever bread you have on hand. Give me 5 loaves at least of bread, or whatever you can find. And the priest answered and said to David, there's no common bread on hand, but there's only holy bread. If the young men have at least kept themselves from women, then David answered the priest and said to them, oh yeah, truly the women have been kept from us 3 days. David doesn't have any men. He's by himself. But oh yeah, those guys, yeah. Those imaginary guys that are with me, yeah. Every one of those imaginary guys have not been with any imaginary women. They're all clean. And the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is, in fact, common, even though it is consecrated in the vessel this day. So the priest gave him the holy bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread, which had been taken from before the Lord in order to put hot bread in its place on the day when it was taken out. Now, Leviticus 24 explains that God was going to make a special table to be in the temple. And it's almost exactly the shape and the size of a piano bench. It's about 3 feet long, a foot wide, about 3 feet high. It had a little lip on it. And they would make special bread, cut in 12 divisions, that would just go inside that table, and it would stay in the temple. And so when the priests were serving and they get hungry, they could just reach over and grab some bread and eat it and keep working. But it was only for the sons of Aaron. But at the end of the time, when it was getting bad, they needed to replace it, they would just take it and put it in a bag, and they would take it home and let the whole family eat it. But it was still for Aaron and his families. So you say, well, why is this an important story? Because Jesus makes it an important story. When the Pharisees were coming down on his disciples for taking pieces of grain and eating it on the Sabbath, which according to the law is perfectly lawful, but not according to the Pharisees' law. You see, the rabbis through the history and then the Pharisees, they kept adding to make themselves holier, making the Sabbath day stricter and stricter and stricter. And so when they're doing this with Jesus, Jesus just, instead of arguing with them over what the rabbis have said through the centuries, just simply said this: well, explain to me why David wasn't punished when he took the bread that were only for the priest. And they couldn't answer him. And in Matthew chapter 12, in verse 5, he says, have you not read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests of the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? That you're supposed to rest on the Sabbath day, but the priests work hard on the Sabbath day, ministering to the people. Yet, even though they're laboring, they're not condemned. Yet I say to you that in this place there's one greater than the temple. But if you had known what this means, I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is the Lord even of the Sabbath. So I created that day. So God made all of these laws, yes, to convict us of sin and to show us we were sinners, but ultimately all of them were to bless man, to encourage man, not to oppress man. And he is saying that I want love. I want the care of man over your laws and your legalism. And you're willing to bind people up and hurt people and oppress people in the name of obeying God. And I'm telling you, I am God, and I never intended that. And if you had understood that God just wants compassion and mercy above any of your legalism, you would just see right through it, understand it. God didn't judge David for taking that bread because it was God's desire to love David and bless David. And he had no problem for him to take that bread that was supposed to be only for the priest. Now, David, again, is going through a tough time. And some of you are going, I understand David's going through a tough time, but I just don't get it. Well, don't forget, guys. In 1 Corinthians 10:13, it begins that saying, there's no temptation that's overtaken you except that's not common to all men. The fact is we're all the same stuff. There's not David. There's not somebody in history that has an extra holy body and other people had extra evil bodies. We're all made of the same stuff. And whatever David was going through, you wouldn't have done better. Well, in verse 7 now of 1 Samuel, now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg, an Edomite, the chief of the herdsmen who belonged to Saul. Now Saul had fought against the Edomites and conquered them and probably taken some of them as slaves. This guy was a herdsman, and he had evidently converted. And so he's at the tabernacle worshiping the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, at least to some degree pretending it. And he's observing, hey, David's there, and this guy's talking to him and giving him some bread. And then David had this little check in his spirit like, oh, that guy, that's not good that he saw me. Well, David continues on going, he said to Ahimelech, David's just lost it here. He's having a breakdown, literally. He's having a nervous breakdown, I think. And he says, is there not here on hand at least a spear or a sword? Hey, thanks for the bread. Hey, now some weapons from the tabernacle. What? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me because the king's business required haste. Do you think Ahimelech bought any of this? This is ridiculous. I don't care how big of a hurry you're in. If things were legitimate, you would have had at least a sword with you, but whatever. But the priest said, well, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, there it is, wrapped in the cloth behind the ephod. If you will take it, then take it. For there is no other except that one here. And David said, there's none like it. Give it to me. So how did the sword that David took, remember when he killed Goliath, he took Goliath's sword, chopped Goliath's head off. But now all of a sudden we discover the sword is in the tabernacle. I think that at some point David had that sword. Probably had it up on the mantle. Guys come around, go, wow, you hear about some guy named David who killed the giant. Oh, yeah, that was me. No, you're too short. You're too young. You don't look like a warrior at all. Let me show you what's in my bedroom. Hey, look at this. Whoa, you are the guy. Wow. But at some point, David realized, this is not good for me. God, you did it. It wasn't my slingshot. It wasn't my power as a soldier. God, you gave me that victory. And at some point, I believe in worship, David came and gave that sword at the altar and just said, God, it's you. You've done it. You killed Goliath. This is your trophy. You take this. It's just a great example of how the Lord works. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes, if we cast our bread upon the water, it will return back to us after many days. The Bible says the man that waters gets watered himself. And here David gave God a sword. Like God's ever going to need a sword in the tabernacle there. But it wasn't the point. The point was that it was given unto God in worship. And now that bread that he cast upon the water, now at a time when it's really the need is there. In a time of prosperity, in a time of success, he gave it to God when he really could have used it. But now, at a time that he's in need, God's able to water him as he is watered. God's able to honor him as he honored God. What about this Doeg guy? What did he do? Well, we need to skip over to the next chapter, to 1 Samuel chapter 22, verse 9 through 19. It says, now Doeg the Edomite, who was set over the servants of Saul, said, he's now back over with Saul, I saw the son of Jesse going to Nob, to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, and inquired of the Lord for him, and gave him provisions, and gave him even a sword, the sword of Goliath the Philistine. The king sent to all Ahimelech the priest. So the king sent to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests who were at Nob, and they all came to the king. And Saul said, hear now, you sons of Ahitub. He answered, here am I, my lord. And Saul said to him, why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in which you have given him bread and a sword, and inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me, lie in wait, as it is this day? And Ahimelech answered the king and said, and who among your servants is as faithful as David? Who is the king's son-in-law, who goes on your bidding, who is honorable in your house? Hey, I have not looked at my Facebook account lately, and I had no idea that he was your enemy. The last I heard, he was the number one most loyal servant you had, who you made him a part of your family, who you made him a general, who was the number one guy going out for you to fight your battles. Did I then begin to inquire of God for him? Far be it from me. Let not the king impute anything to his servant or to any of the house of any of my father. Your servant knew nothing of all of this, little or much. No, we did inquire of God for him, but we had no idea that he was your enemy. And the king said, you shall surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house. And the king said to the guards who stood around him, turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because of their hand also is with David, and because they knew when he fled and did not tell it to me. And the servants of the king would not lift their hands to strike these Hebrew Jewish priests there at the tabernacle of the Lord. But the king then looked at Doeg. You turn and kill the priest. So Doeg the Edomite turned and struck the priest and killed on that day 85 men who were in the linen ephod, who were actively working that day. Also Nob, the city of the priests, who struck with the edge of the sword both men and women, children, listen to this, nursing infants, and the oxen, and the donkeys, and the sheep, with the edge of the sword. Guys, we've just got to stop here and understand the truth as God tells us in the Bible. We are in sinful flesh. All of us, equally so. It says Elijah was a man with a nature like ours, but he prayed. Well, guess what? We are a people with a nature like Saul. Saul, don't say, well, that was Saul. That has nothing to do with me. No. In Romans, Paul says it this way in verse 18 and 19 of chapter 7, Romans 7, verse 18 and 19. For I know that in me, that is in my flesh, nothing good dwells. For the will is present with me, but how to perform what is good I do not know, I do not find. For the good that I will to do, I, what? Do not do. But what? The evil I will not to do, that I practice. Understand, guys, we come to this place and our flesh begins to scream. And we are in that place of the valley of decision where you are going to walk after the flesh or walk after the Spirit. The Spirit, if you're a born-again believer, is willing. Now, I do need to stop and say right here that if you're not a believer, you haven't asked Jesus to come and be the Lord of your life and yielded yourself to Him, if God's Spirit is not in you, and you try to live a life that the Bible describes as a Christian in kindness and love and forgiveness, you will just be pushing your flesh to make your flesh conform, and you eventually, like a volcano, will explode. But if the Holy Spirit has truly come in you, then you now have daily the will to deny ourselves, take up the cross, and follow Jesus. We daily have a choice to beat our body into subjection by the power of God's Spirit, to crucify our flesh with all its passions and desires. But Satan, that lion, is going to keep waiting for an opportune time to keep coming around, to give you legitimate, right reasons to be angry, to be mad, to be in the flesh. And you got to come to that place to realize, am I going to walk in the Spirit or walk in the flesh? And if you start saying, well, I'm going to be angry at this one person because I have every right to be. And you may be totally right. If you polled the entire world and they said, absolutely hate that person, you have every right. They, whatever it is. Understand, it doesn't stop with that one person. At the moment you give yourself over to become this angry person or this person who judges, then all of a sudden that door now is open. Satan is doing everything he can to open that door just a crack, to get his foot in it, to just keep opening it, opening it, and opening it till that door is ripped off its hinges. There's always a reason to show mercy. There's always a reason to be angry. There's always a reason to be kind. There's always a reason to be mad. There's always a reason to judge people and be mad at people and cut people off. There's always going to be a good reason. And you'll get your little group of friends that'll tell you that your horrible, sinful attitude is absolutely not only right, but it's righteous and it's the way God wants you to be. And it will bring you into destruction. It doesn't stay isolated. In Galatians chapter 5, verse 19 to 21, it says, now the works of the flesh are evident, and it starts out with adultery, fornication, uncleanness, so forth. But then it shifts, and in verse 20 of Galatians 5, it says hatred, contentions, jealousy, and then this is what we see with Saul, outburst of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions, and then envy and what? Murders. And then he goes on, drunken rivalries and the like. Looking at that one particular thing, selfish ambitions, in James 3, verse 14 to 16. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, what? Confusion and every evil thing are there. It starts out earthly. Well, you don't know what my neighbor did to my fence. You know how much work I put into that fence, and then he just slammed that shed up against it, and nails sticking out, and I have a right to be angry. That's all I'm going to be angry at is my neighbor over that thing. You think it's going to stay isolated? Once you gave your permission to be angry there, it's going to keep growing. You've opened the door. Satan's got in there. kicked it open a crack. It says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26 and 27, be angry, do not sin, do not let the sun go down on your wrath. What? Nor give place to the devil. It starts off earthly. Then it fills your senses. It feels so right to be right. It feels so right to be just. It feels right to be judgmental. It feels good to be the righteous person and seeing how unrighteous everybody else is. And then it goes right to where Satan has you. In Hebrews 12, verse 14 and 15, it says, pursue peace with how many people? All people, in holiness, without which no one will see the Lord. Looking carefully lest anyone fall short of the grace of God, lest any root of bitterness spring up and cause trouble, and by this many become defiled. You say, oh God, I love you. Oh, I have peace with God. It's just people are idiots sometimes. That's my only problem. You know what God says? You have peace with me, but I don't have peace with you. Because those are the people I died on the cross for. Those are the people I'm working with. That's my bride. You just said my bride's ugly. You just called my bride an idiot. And the fact is that nobody's perfect. I love them. And so I don't have peace with you. It goes two ways here. You need to be at peace with all men. I'm at peace with all men. And you want me to be at peace with you. There's something I'm doing there. And you think, I'm going to control it. I'm going to contain it. I can let this exist over here with this one person. And this is as far as it's going to go. Well, think about Saul. There was a point where he's like, man, I can't have David around here. And remember he said to his daughter Michal when she hid David, he said, you've betrayed me and helped my enemy. What happened there? When did David become his enemy? Only in his mind. It was this thing going around in his brain. And here we are a few days later, and it went from trying to kill David to now it's defiled many. He comes to his men and he's like, as far as I'm concerned, these priests didn't hate David. Period. That's their guilt. Whether they helped him or not, I don't care. They didn't betray him. They didn't hate him. They didn't kill him. They didn't knock him in the head and tie him up and go get me and let me come over and kill him. Now I want all these priests to die because they didn't hate the way I hate. They didn't feel about David the way I felt about David. That makes me mad at them. Guys, kill him. The priest of God? Why, they're serving God? Doeg. You feel me, right? Oh, yeah. I got it. That poison's gone out. It leaked all over him. Doeg was just a herdsman. He was trying to become a follower of God, but I get you, Saul. Man, I feel it. Oh, that poison. He starts killing the priests that are working. Then he starts killing the other priests and their wives. Oh, that one's there is breastfeeding. Doesn't matter. Kill the baby and her both. Kill the animals. Kill all the donkeys. Kill all the oxen. For he knows that I don't want anything living. Blah, blood, guts, death. Is that what you want to saw? I felt it, man. I felt it myself. David is your enemy. Where's this going to end, guys? Understand. There is no way to tame anger. There's no way to control it. There's no way to keep it in one person. And all of a sudden, you become this person that becomes earthly, and then you're living by your senses, and then the devil's got a hold of you. He's slung open that door, and now everybody's idiots. You've got to come to that place, and you know who more than anybody? was David. Saul was trying to just pour all his poison onto David. And believe me, David felt it. David is like, you're my enemy. I'm your enemy, well, then I'll be your enemy. You want to kill me and you kill this city of priests? Now I have a righteous reason to kill you, Saul, and everybody will rejoice because of what you did. And they'll all see me as righteous and you as evil. What a great package I've got. Thanks for killing those priests. Because now my storyline really works good. You're all evil and I'm all good. Do you see how it starts twisting? But David didn't do it. Twice he had the chance to kill Saul, and twice he didn't do it. The Bible just makes it unbelievably clear. We just need to love everyone actively. We see that flip side of that coin in Galatians 5:22 and 23. But the fruit of the Spirit is what? Love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness. That's you now. You're a born-again believer. All things have passed away. All things have become new. We're living in God's timing, by God's provision, by God's grace. Some guy's pushing me, trying to cut me off. I used to be the guy to slam on the brakes and flip him off. And now it's like, hey, I'm sorry. Let me get out of your way. Oh, yeah, I just built that nice fence and you saw it as a place that you could build a shed, making my backyard that I made look so nice look like complete chaos now, and you practically destroyed my fence. What am I going to do there? I'm going to love. I'm going to be kind. It says in Philippians 2 that mind of Christ is to put everybody's interest before your own interest, to see everybody as better than yourself. Jesus humbled himself even to the point of death at the cross. So you go to the neighbor, hey, you're building a shed there. Yeah, let me help you. What are you trying to accomplish? Not to be self-righteous or sarcastic. Yeah, he's pushing, intruding into my space, he's wrong. It doesn't matter. This isn't heaven. This, I have no rights. I've died to that. I'm the servant of all men. What's important is my neighbor and his interest. That he's better than me. What is it that he needs in this? It's a shift. It's a complete different way of thinking. In James 3:13, who's wise and understanding among you? Let him show it by good conduct, that his what? His works are done in the meekness of wisdom. Don't tell me about it. Show it to me. Love your enemy. Pray for him. Bless him. Do good to him. Don't set in neutral, going, I'm not mad, I'm not mad, I'm not mad, I'm not going to do evil, I'm thinking, I'm not thinking it. Okay, look at me, God, I'm Switzerland. Aren't you proud of me? I'm not wronging anybody who's all these evil jerks. I'm not saying they're jerks. I just did, I'm sorry. It's not going to work. You pray for them. You go to them. You greet them. You bless them. You do good to them. Look at, we're going to end right here in Romans 12, verse 17 to 21. Repay no one evil for evil. How many people? No one. Just not, how about the guy at work? He's a real, just that one. Okay, repay just the one guy at work, but outside of that, no one. You can't open the door, even a crack. You start with one, it won't end. Have regard for good things in the sight of all men. If it is possible, as much depends on you, live peaceably with how many? All men. Beloved, do not avenge yourself, but rather give place to wrath, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. So if that gives you a little satisfaction that eventually God's going to bring it all to light and he's going to deal with it as sees right in his sight, I got a feeling he's going to be more merciful than you want. But therefore, if your enemy is hungry, what? Feed him. If he's thirsty, give him a drink. For in so doing, you will heap coals of fire upon his head. Do not do what Saul did. What did Saul do? He was overcome by evil. But this we must do. Overcome evil with being neutral, with not being evil. No. You have to overcome evil with good.